Recently, Twitter became X. The vision of the world's wealthiest human is a good excuse to talk about the much lauded legacy of pro wrestling's favourite X. Not that one. Now, we've already done that one. Maybe another day. No, the gathering of hearts and minds under the 24th letter of the alphabet we're speaking about occurred in Impact Wrestling, the home of the X-Division. Let's expand and extrapolate on the extraordinary experiences of the X title and the exhibitions exemplified from it. Excited? Excellent. It's early June 2002. Bob Ryder, one of the founding fathers of NWA Total Nonstop Action, is watching the X Games. In fact, lots of people are in the X Games experience in the early noughties. The popularity of it is exploding. A unique sporting event that saw snowboarding, skateboarding, motocross all brought to the fore. And Bob was inspired to name TNA's Soft Cruiserweight League after the stunt-filled X Games spectacles. Thus, the X-Division arrived. Now, I say Soft Cruiserweight League because the company didn't want to merely brand this mid-card action as the smaller guys' trophy. The concept of cruiserweights and light heavyweights had been minimalized and disregarded by the WWF after their acquisition of WCW. And it almost felt like a dirty word, didn't it? So NWA TNA wanted to bring the energy of WCW's formative years of lighter lad lambasting, but present it in a new way. Hence the tagline, it's not about weight limits, it's about no limits, putting the emphasis on the high-flying, high-class action as opposed to a perceived weight class glass ceiling. Now, on the second ever NWA Total Nonstop Action pay-per-view, AJ Styles won a four-way to become the first ever X-Division champion. This was a well-received moment by live fans in Huntsville, Alabama, and by wrestling fans around the world who could tell that even though he'd only debuted 4 years ago or so, he was going to be phenomenal, was AJ Styles. It's not about weight limits in the X-Division, said the TNA commentator Mike Tenay. So one person stepped up to test that non-weight limit theory. A heavyweight with a defiantly high-octane moveset who'd earned the respect of his peers from years of wrestling and was ready to rock this brand's new wrestling league table. That's right. Pierre-Carl Ouellet. The pre-PCO years were odd for the Quebecer without portfolio. In 2003, bedecked in a mask, he played the menacing X, a big boy looking to grab the X-shaped brass ring. He warred with the likes of Christopher Daniels and Chris Sabin before disappearing, presumably one way, onto a one-way ghost train in Transylvania. Hey, but think on that though, a big lad in a particularly considered small lad world. Pop a pin in that. The X-Division quickly became a predominant part of the TNA IP. It was a statement of intent for what the new company was all about, a proud showcase of high-flying competition that distanced themselves from the only other major game in town, WWE, themselves going through their hard-hitting, angry, rock-listening, ruthless aggression phase. The X-Division would also birth a hybrid, high-rise, high-risk gimmick match in Ultimate X. It was Don Callis, as his TNA official days were taking place, who set the first Ultimate X matchup between Michael Shane, Chris Sabin, and Frankie Kazarian, declaring no limits, no ladders. Now, many give Don and the TNA creative forces of the time credit for the concept, but the truth is, the idea of suspending the title across converging metal cables actually came from then TNA star Glenn Gilberti, the artist formerly known as Disco Inferno. Scott D'Amore admitted this during an interview on Impact's YouTube channel. He has since alluded to the idea having to be finessed first, which means there are some truly hilarious prototype plans for this in like somebody's cupboard somewhere. But it was from Disco's mental inferno that Ultimate X was first forged. The first few years of the championship would be spearheaded by fast-paced cruiser-adjacent athletes such as WWE Hall of Famer Sean Waltman, future Motor City Machine Gun Chris Sabin, and pro wrestling journeyman Christopher Daniels. Sabin would take the belt to New Zealand for the first time ever, in an event presented by World Wrestling All-Stars, the Petri dish that cultured NWA TNA, where he would unify the X title with WWA's International Cruiserweight Championship. Daniels also took the belt on a road trip, this time to Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, putting it up against the likes of Alex Shelley and Chris Hero before going to a stunning 1-hour draw with AJ Styles. It would be against Styles, where Daniels would make more history with a former Ring of Honor star who sought to break all the barriers in Samoa Joe. Joe challenged Daniels and Styles to a three-way dance at TNA Unbreakable in September 2005. Not only was this the first time the X-Division Championship had headlined a pay-per-view, but it lives in the history books as one of the greatest TNA/Impact matches of all time. A few months later, a turning point, Joe broke more barriers, becoming the first heavyweight competitor to capture the Kinda Cruiser crown. Cheers, mate. PCO's crying. Another heavyweight competitor turned their eye to the X-Division in 2006. Enter famous, well-known company guy and selfless superstar Kevin Nash to declare the X-Division a bunch of no-talent hacks. He formed a bond with wrestler-turned-videographer Alex Shelley and Paparazzi Productions, who wanted to help get the X-Guys over as sports entertainers. A big part of that plan was humiliation, discreditation, and desecration. Paparazzi Idol was designed through challenges apparently filmed on a potato to help the X-Names get characters. In the wake of this, Sanjay Dutt became the guru, Shark Boy became Stone Cold Shark Boy, and that's the bottom line, and Jay Lethal got to put on his brilliant Macho Man voice and put it to good use by doing a Randy Savage costume change as Black Machismo. The jury's out on whether Kevin Nash doing a Kevin Nash on the X-Division helped in any major way. Certainly gave Lethal and Sanjay a new lease on life, and a TV feud over their own Miss Elizabeth in SoCal Val. However, it's said that Big Kev's reluctance to truly end the story on his back kind of hurts everyone involved. We've still got the X-Division title though. What a pittance. The X-Division, through distinction and distraction, always boiled down to just bloody good wrestling. Opportunities to showcase quality graps under the X category kept that concept front of mind, such as the numerous X Cups that have been held sporadically. There was the 2003 Super X Cup, a knockout tournament showcasing global grapplers like Johnny Storm from the UK, Juventud Guerrera from Mexico, and Teddy Hart from Purgatory. There was also the World X Cup that first kicked off in 2004. Teams would fly their respective flags and compete over 4 weeks to determine which country was the best at TNA's own brand of liquid wrestling. The trifecta of World X Cups that we've seen so far have given the six-sided ring to the likes of Jushin Thunder Liger, Hiroki Goto, Rey Bucanero, pre-TJP Puma, and Incognito, before he would go on to wish he was Incognito as WWE Sin Cara. It was in the World Cup that TNA's staple Maple Leaf lads debuted in Team Canada. Bobby Roode, Eric Young, and with Scott D'Amore leading the way, as he does in Impact today. Having watched Scott at Slammiversary recently, it's clear that he should have been on the team rather than cheering them on. He's fantastic in the ring. TNA Wrestling celebrated the extraordinary X-Division with Destination X, a pay-per-view in March of 2005 that was initially designed to shine a special light on the league. Now, early plans were to see a one-night Super X Cup held, but they were scrapped in favour of a more traditional wrestling card headlined by Diamond Dallas Page versus Jeff Jarrett. Whilst X-Division contenders would take centre stage, I'll tell you how in a bit, the X title wouldn't main event, a Destination X event, until the last one ever, with Eddie Edwards putting the X up against Bobby Lashley's world title, a match that would see Bobby Lashley become a member of a very unique club. You see, only 3 people in the wrestling world have held both the X-Division Championship and the WWE Championship. You had Lashley in 2017. Before that, you had Rob Van Dam winning the whole effing thing at Bound for Glory in 2012. But the first of this triple threat emerged at TNA Hard Justice in 2007, when Kurt Angle beat Samoa Joe for all the belts in TNA. And that's not me being cute. I do mean all the belts in the men's divisions. Angle left Orlando looking like a stock buyer for the men's department for Marks and Spencer. Among the litany of leather was the X-Division title. He dropped it less than a month later to Black Machismo in a match that, in retrospect, should have launched Lethal more than it did. But the same year that Kurt Angle put his angle on the X, another division difference maker was devised. Prior to this, we'd seen the X-Escape match, a steel cage contest that was held at Lockdown with multiple X-Division stars. However, a simple elimination cage match was just too easy, so it was spiced up. Nope, That's not a pimped-out Punjabi prison, nor is it a punishment from the new Saw movie. This is the Steel Asylum. It was simple. You chuck a bunch of X-Division guys in there, and the one that could pull themselves through the anus of the cage was the #1 contender for the X-Division title. It was originally called the Terror Dome, short for Terrible Dome. Wrestlers had an absolute chew-on trying to climb this thing and win the match. Famous moment comes when Homicide gets stuck trying to escape the cage for well over a minute. Jeff Jarrett revealed on his podcast My World that he'd voiced a lot of concerns about this, believing that Homicide, whilst he was great, would have probably had the most trouble getting out of the dome. And we haven't seen much of it since that. The trademark, it's not about weight limits, it's no limits, was reneged upon in 2011 when Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan stuck their creative oars into TNA. It was decided that the new era of Impact Wrestling would see the 6-sided ring changed to a traditional 4 sides and a 225-pound weight limit added to the X-Division title division. This was part of those wonderful work shoot situations where the X-Division stars were legit annoyed about their lack of focus. Since Bischoff and Hogan had come in, Bischoff decided to make this very real rage against the X-Division machine an on-screen storyline. A storyline that saw Eazy-E, with the help of Matt Hardy, beat X-Division tag standouts Generation Me. Eric got the pin and everything in this one. Bischoff declared that a team like Generation Me were useless to the wrestling business, and he was right. What would Generation Me ever do for the wrestling business, these silly, young bucks? Like a dirty oven before a landlord visit, the weight limit rule would be completely scrubbed in order would be restored, but only for a little while. Sadly, we'd see a lot of meddling with the mechanisms and the machinations of our beloved X over the next few years, including the reinstatement of yet another weight limit and a rule that made every X-Div match a triple threat affair. If you get pinned, you don't get a title shot, and if you don't, you'll be in the next triple threat match. Both the 3-way ruling and the latest weight limit were quietly revoked on the grounds of being a bit silly. It's not about weight limits, it's about no limits. And weight limits. And limits in general. It's basically what they said, which is why they binned it. Whilst there was a pride in holding the X-bedecked gold, there was a greater pride in relinquishing it. In 2012, Austin Aries was unhappy with being just the X-Division champion. He wanted to represent the division in the main event of July's Destination X in a world title match against Bobby Roode. Then General Manager Hulk Hogan said Aries could have his wish, but he would have to essentially swap his X-Division title for a chance at the World Championship. Austin Aries has had a habit of causing X-Division paperwork, as he once won the title whilst dressed as video game star come to life Suicide. What a character, eh? From here, option C is born, giving whomever wears the crown for the No Limit Kingdom the chance to abdicate for a shot at world domination. In total, 7 X holders have released their hold for higher gold, with only 3 having been successful in Austin Aries, who took down Bobby Roode in 2012, Chris Sabin, who played his hand against Aces and Eights leader Bully Ray and flushed him in 2013, and Josh Alexander, who became the leader of the new Impact generation when he beat Christian Cage at Bound for Glory in 2021. For all of a few minutes, until Moose rocked up and played Spoiler. Cheers, Moose, son's crying. Through all the eras of NWA TNA, TNA, Impact Wrestling, Global Force Wrestling, Impact Wrestling again, the X-Division has persevered. It's done so despite on-screen burials, needless tinkering, overbooking, and overthinking. To its bare bones, it's a high-energy wrestling style that sees guys that fans love in matches that new fans can get captivated by. Sometimes keeping it simple is the most effective way to do business. And all you need for business is X. Stay safe. Love you, bye.